So the education was invaluable. That introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki, introduced me to Zig Ziglar, it introduced me to Les Brown, it introduced me to Darren Hardy, personal development goats, Tony Robbins, all the goats. It introduced me to The Secret, the law of attraction. I did not know about the law of attraction until Vima. That single thing changed the rest of my life. Like, imagine living and not knowing that your thoughts create your reality. I didn't know that. I cried when I watched the video. I cried, and I knew that I got full body chills. I knew that my life was never going to be the same. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Conscious Wealth Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, my good friend Chris, aka Come Out Better. Some of you may know him better by that. Me and Jax have become pretty good friends with Chris and Jilly, so I'm super honored to have you today, my friend. How are you doing?
It's a good day to be alive. Thank you. I know we've been talking about doing a flow for a minute, and yeah, man, I'm ready to just let everybody in on what goes on 6 inches between the ears and what's going to be going on in the world and how we can help people too. So it's an honor and a pleasure. And thank you everybody for tuning in and checking this out. We're ready to dive in. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Chris is just as into conspiracies as some of you think I am. But before we get into that stuff, I want to give you guys an introduction into exactly who Chris is and what him and Jilly do, and a little bit more about, why I'm so excited to have him on today as a guest. So for those of you who aren't aware, Chris and Jilly are in the multi-level marketing company Enagic, which their most popular product is going to be the Kangen water machines that many of you are probably familiar with. Me and Jax have one ourselves. As far as Chris and Jilly, they are extremely successful within the company. This is not your average situation where you join an MLM and then 16 months later, you just kind of are like, it's not working out. Pretty much what happened to me when I joined at 20, but we'll get to that. They have downlines. So in other words, their team exists in 15 different countries. They have teams in 15 different states in the US, and they've together as a couple done over $20 million in sales for the company. This is not your average story of people joining multi-level marketing and just kind of maybe getting a few $100s here and there, $1,000 here and there. This is what they do full time. And so I'm super excited to have some probably controversial conversations about this stuff. I know everyone has differing opinions, but to me, I personally respect the hell out of what you guys do, even if Kangen is a polarizing topic, or the whole alkalinity and all that, which we can get to. But anyway, that is basically what Chris and Jilly do. And for those of you who aren't aware, Jilly is Water Priestess on Instagram. Chris has Come Out Better on Instagram. I'm really honored to have you today, brother. So without further ado, the first thing I kind of want to dive into is, can you give us a little bit of your backstory? I would imagine some of that would involve your life in general, and then also leading into the Kangen space, the Kangen season of your life in, 5 to 10 minutes. Nothing too crazy because we have a lot of topics to get to, but just kind of an overview so people can understand, where you started, what your journey looked like a little bit, and how you got here.
Absolutely. I love sharing this because every time I do share my story and my past and my upbringing in my 20s and so forth, I even forget and realize that these things happened to me. And it's so crazy to think that time is such a linear construct, and we sometimes fear our past. We sometimes run from it or avoid it. And for me, the moment I realized it was my greatest teacher, life itself, the great experiment that we get to live out. It truly becomes magic. It's medicine. So growing up, I was an athlete. I had a basketball in my hand at the age of 2. Grew up in Orange County, California, in the city of Irvine, small town at the time. I was born in 1989, so I'm about 33 years old. And as I grew up, my whole life really was predicated around a sport, and that sport was basketball. And I learned a great deal with sports. I'm sure anybody can attest that teamwork, communication, being able to be coachable, being disciplined, holding yourself accountable, these things that I didn't really think or thought how it would impact me the rest of my life And that's really what I started uncovering after basketball ended. So I played college ball. I played at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, played. After that, I graduated. I had got my toes wet in the 9 to 5 world, the employee world, as marketing, territory marketing manager for a commercial finance company, doing tractors and
Wow.
trailers and you name it, the whole 9 yards. I went from sneakers to slacks. That was my little catchphrase at the time at about 24 years old. And long story short, in 10 months, I woke up and I just said, this isn't for me. And that was really, I feel like, the first birth. You're going to hear me talk a lot about the death and rebirth, like of a phoenix. It's very correlated with who I am and what I embody and my brand and what I stand for. What I started happening was I started asking myself, is there more to life than just this? Right? Where you're just showing up, getting out, going back and repeating the same patterns over and over. And that led me actually back to the basketball court. It led me to Mexico. It led me down to Mexico, where I got an opportunity to play professional basketball, which has always been a dream of mine, obviously at the NBA level. And if you can get to that professional level, I mean, it's a dream come true for a kid. You get paid to play a sport, and that's your job. And so that was an amazing experience. And Mexico was an amazing country. Just like anything, amazing parts and very, low income parts that, really pull on your heart. And it really showed me a lot about a different culture. It popped my comfort bubble of the Orange County bubble. It got me in a place to learn new language. It got me in a place to learn new food and culture. And most people actually don't know that I'm half Hispanic. I have it. It's in my blood. My mom is full Hispanic. My grandparents were born in Mexico. I have a long lineage of ancestors that's a whole nother conversation. And so this is within me. And what happened was, where it all started to manifest into the next stage of my life, which has been the real growth of who I am and what I share today, is the last month I was there. I thought things were going great. I had an amazing experience, and I got very sick. And it brings me back to it in this moment right now. I woke up with excruciating pain, and this was the start of my health awakening, right? There's different awakenings we all have. It's not just the one where it's a spiritual one or you see 111. That's a very linear way to look at an awakening, or you have angel numbers. It's part of it. We all have different awakenings, and it's actually up to us in that moment consciously to realize that this is a new possibility that you can live out. We always have that choice. The sun goes up, it goes down every single day. I say, stay as consistent as the sun. And if you can take that into consideration, you realize that every day is a new door for you. So I woke up with horrible pain in my gut. I had getting this rash that I didn't know what it was. Come to behold, it was eczema. I didn't know at the time what that was. Acid reflux. I was having medications for allergies. I literally had a cabinet full of the next best medication. Tylenol was my best friend, Zantac, Allegra, Pepto-Bismol, Tums were like candy to me. And I thought that was normal. I just thought that that's the way it was. And what I realized was ulcerative colitis, acid reflux, inflammation, eczema, all these things was really the start of me waking up to my body and my health. And so that's when I came home. We discovered Kangen water. Jilly had showed it to me. The water had started helping me very, very quickly within days and weeks. And within a few months, all those things had disappeared. And that's where another phase of my life started to begin. Because after I started taking care of my health, the next thing was, all right, what about my financial health? So what do I do now for money? I'm not playing anymore. I don't want to go back to a job. I can't, there's no way I can wear slacks every day, 5 days a week for, sometimes 40 to 50 hours at a desk. What do I do? And I became an entrepreneur in that moment. I made the decision to go ahead and say, I'm going to bet on myself. And that's one of the fears that people can have. They feel like they may not be able to actually bet on themselves, right? They may not actually be able to bet on themselves in a way where they trust themselves. They're able to take their power back into their own hands, whether it's finances, their daily schedule, their choices, someone coming to save the day or bail them out or do all the work for them. So I became a personal trainer. I went to the personal training route, again, expanding my portfolio. Professional athlete, you've got a territory marketing manager, now you got a personal trainer. And that was a great experience. I've got thousands of hours of experience with people. And I started learning communication, how to really coach somebody. I started also becoming a basketball coach. I was being able to be an assistant with my father, which was an incredible experience I'll always cherish. I was a camp counselor for kids at local elementary schools. I also then got involved into dental insurance. I kid you not. I was doing cold calling for dental insurance. I got involved in commercial real estate, learning the ins and outs of how to sell property. I then also got involved in recruiting for companies. So I would be on calls with people that were presidents, vice presidents, managers, CEOs that were trying to look for a new opportunity. I also got involved with startups such as an app called I forget what, Thrive, or I forget what the name was called. It was a app for senior citizens. It was like the Yelp for senior citizens, where they could find, funeral services, hospice care without having to get lost and manipulated. And I tried that out all while I was doing personal training. So I was a very
Damn.
serial entrepreneur. I had this notion of just looking for the next best thing without sticking with one and really building a foundation. And lo and behold, this whole time that I was doing these things, I had a foundation literally within my glass. And that was the whole thing with the Kangen water, that it was always there as being a business owner. But that thought alone really scared me. I had a lot of fears. I had a lot of doubt. I had a self-doubt, self-worry, some anxieties, overthinking. I really let my mind literally get the best of me. It controlled my life, and I was disconnected from my heart. I didn't really find my sole purpose. So much of my life was basketball, which I wouldn't change. I love every minute of it, especially being coached by my father. At the same time, once that chapter ended, I really started to get back to who I was and find myself. And amongst all those changes in my life, with health changes, health issues, mental, anxiety, some depression at times, emotional, was not able to process emotions properly. So that led to bad habits, external stimulants, things that I would reach to numb the pain that I would go through, whether it was real pain or not, something I could have easily made up, and a spiritual disconnection, which I did not know there was anything more than outside of what, church or religion had taught me. Growing up as a Christian and all the things, which again, I'm so grateful for all these things, because one can easily say, oh, I wish I did it different. I wish I did that different. Well, you can't. It is what it is. And the moment you become complete with that and comfortable and confident with that, things start to change. Things start to really open up. So fast forward, just to summarize it all together, I was about 26, 27 years old. I started now questioning things. Jilly started dropping little seeds in my mind of things that I never heard of. I'm like, okay, you're crazy. You're the conspiracy theory thing. Okay, this doesn't make sense. I've never heard that. None of my friends talk about that. Nobody knows this. Come on. And she would just smile. And she always knew. I thank that woman so much for being so patient in my life, for her to see me go through what I would used to be, which is literally ashes on the ground, to rising every time and then literally dying over and over. And she was always there. And then I had my spiritual awakening, which is another awakening. And that happened at the end of 2017, where I had left my body for about, hours. I remember this is after a night out drinking with the friends at the bars. I woke up and my consciousness was on the roof looking down at my body, and I could not actually move. They call it maybe sleep paralysis and whatnot. I was in a place where I had no control, and that was very scary for me, because we like to control a lot of things in our life. And next thing you know, I come back into my body, and this voice, no gender, no, it wasn't like a voice that you're hearing us talk about. It was a voice as if I was hearing it being read without any actual sound. That makes sense. It was more like I was reading something that like someone just turned on a teleprompter in my head, and all of these words and all this information from alkalinity, detox, plant medicine, hemp, Dr. Sebi, pharmaceuticals, all these things started coming in January 2018. And then I started to make a diet change. And then fast forward 4 months later, my dad gets diagnosed with cancer, leukemia. And that's where it all really put together. And that's truly where the end of this whole backstory is, and also the start of where Chris started to come out better in his life, was at that pivotal point. When you get the diagnosis of a best friend, your father, your coach, your teacher, your brother, like, he was everything to me. Everything. There's no one I've been closer with aside from God in my life than my father. And to get that call that your dad has acute leukemia and he needs treatment Monday or else he will not make it, at a point where I had no awareness, really shocks you to the core. And that's where I truly died for the first time. And then every time rose again and found light in it. And that's how I've been able to come out better. So that's just like a brief background from sports to business to health scare to entrepreneurship to trying a bunch of things, and then getting to a point where I started having my soul and my spirit really turn back on and come back on. And now I'm just here to share that experience and help people truly come out better from it too. And that's where we are today, man. And then I met you, and I met other amazing people that are on a similar path. So it's been incredible. Yeah, it's been a journey.
We met in 2020 kind of through the DMs and realizing we were sharing very, very similar messages.
Yep.
And at that time, not many people had the balls to be sharing the type of stuff that we were sharing. Very polarizing time. So how many years have you been doing Enagic?
So I got my Kong and water machine from that health issue that I was resistant for 8 months, dude. I wanted no parts of water because I thought Gatorade and Brita.
Yeah.
Like I got the Brita Deluxe. Like, come on, like I'm chill, I'm good. Instead of what's magic water, like how Jilly would say magic water, just so I can get curious about it. And like I said, God bless her for her patience, because for months I would literally sit in pain with my gut and all that.
That ego.
I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to not know where this was. So that actually, I finally gave in and surrendered to water, and I got my machine in 2017. First year, I sold one machine. Like I sabotaged everything. And that's what we'll talk about with you guys. Like entrepreneurship, network marketing, multi-level marketing, direct sales, like being financially literate. That is school in itself. You know, we'll talk about that as well. That is school. And that first year taught me a lot about what does not work. Literally what does not work. And that's the thing, is we run from that as a society, as a collective. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to try something new because we're going to be scared to fail at it the first time. Yet at the same time, we also rode our bike for the first time. We went down the slide as a kid for the first time. We just didn't have much fear back then because our minds were out of the way and we had God leading us. So my first year, I did everything opposite of what you should do. It's almost like in NBA when you pay the refs to throw a game. It's like someone was paying me to throw the business at the time. Like that's a good one. That's how I operated. And Julie was like, "Why did you say that? Like, why did you do that? Like, how I can help you." I'm like, "No, I'm going to say this instead." Yeah. They disappeared. No, I would only talk to people. Literally, I would only choose to talk to somebody that in my mind, I made up a story that there's 99% they would buy it. So that's I would talk to one person a month. So much self-sabotage of getting my own way, of holding back what I want to share, completely in my head, worried about what someone's going to think of me, being told no. So that first year was a learning curve for me. And then the following year, as I started to pick up some momentum, following years, my dad gets sick. So now I pick up momentum and all of a sudden you get the call, and I stopped. I actually stopped everything. I stopped the Enagic business. I stopped training. I went 10,000 in debt because I had no more income because I was with him at the hospital every day. My sister had a full-time gig. My mom was taking care of her father, my grandpa, who was getting older. And we had recently lost my grandmother at the time. And so honestly, I probably had the roughest, shakiest, worst start to a race or a marathon, you can name it. And yet here I am being able to say, I'm not even finishing the marathon. I'm striding, I'm gliding, where in reality, I didn't even know how to walk when I started. Yeah. So that was the first about 2 years. Then after that, after he started getting a little bit better from his treatments and just the things that he was doing, business started to pick up. And honestly, business imploded when the pandemic hit, because everyone went to their phone, everyone went online, and I was already sharing on social media, and we had so many people seeing what we were sharing, and that's where things started to build and build and build. So it was after those hard points of doing everything you're not supposed to. I probably quit doing the business 6 times, which is very common in these types of things. There's like serial network marketers, which will keep jumping from product to product, or business to business, thinking that, oh, this product's better, when reality, guys, they're all the same. And I don't mean all the same as the same like benefits. They're similar across the board. The only thing that needs to change is you. Facts. Like, that's it.
We can apply that to romantic relationships too.
Everything. How you do one thing is how you do a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
if you eat really fast, you may think really fast. If you work out super hard, you may make things super hard. We have this tendency to carry habits into other avenues.
Huge
So
facts.
that was a point where I was like, all right, time to do the opposite, which now is what we'll talk about, like language and things, because that completely changed so much for me. Instead of what isn't, I'm just going to do what is. I'm going to do everything that has been done in the past that works. I'm going to follow those that have success. I'm going to take clues from people, because people that are successful, that have this mentality of giving back, that are at peace, they want to give out and pour into other people. Hardest part is us asking for it, asking for help. I had to ask for a lot of help, more help than ever. I had to shed a lot of tears. I had to overcome a lot of doubt. I had to literally sit and sometimes purge things out of me that I did not know even existed. And these are the different aspects of my healing. So as those things started to manifest, my leadership grew, my confidence even on camera grew, in person grew, and then the community grew. Wakewater Co., our Kangen community, truly grew, and we literally were doing some amazing things. The company grew 20% in the pandemic year alone.
Wow.
That's a company that can grow when shit hits the fan is a very, very good sign, because there's 6 variables. We could talk about it later. I have 6 variables that when it comes to looking for an opportunity, there's 6 things that you definitely want to consider. And lo and behold, what we're doing with the Nagic, with this product, aside from air, who needs water? Everybody drinks water. It just checked all boxes off. So the pandemic propelled us. For some people, it tanked them. And that's where Robert Kiyosaki has said recessions, these inflationary times, right? These times are where entrepreneurs are birthed, where new technology is reinvented or innovated and expressed, which you guys, I'm sure with the crypto world, you're seeing what's happening with all the lawsuits and regulations, because there's a ticking time bomb of a whole new paradigm we're about to step into. And it's a place where people like me, Justin, Bob, Nancy, Jilly, Jax, Jeff, Matt, all of you guys who are listening and are tuning in quantumly around the world, we have an opportunity that the window is closing very quickly, and it's also giving a lot of space for you to take action of it, because this is where literally the future of humanity happens, at the lowest points where most people feel like it's end of the world, doom and gloom. So we embraced that, we took that on, and then we really made an effort, like you do with your Level Up Collective, just to stay in contact daily with your network, with your community. And then it just grew exponentially. And so we've been able to help thousands of people. To even think of the numbers we've done is eye-opening, especially if you were to whisper that to me 3 or 4 years ago, when I had my first out-of-body spiritual awakening. So that was powerful in itself. So it's been incredible, but it was a slow build-up, man.
For sure.
You gotta learn the tricycles before you do the unicycle. But nobody
Yeah.
wants to look foolish though, and fall off the
Right.
tricycle. You know, they want to juggle with the unicycle and have it all figured out. No flaws, no imperfections, no failures, no mess ups, no mistakes, no rejection, just perfection. And that's a
Just
bubble
perfection.
that's a bubble that as soon as you can pop that bubble, you will free yourself from so many things that have held you back from who you truly are and what you can do. So it's been a wild journey. Yeah, wild.
Beautiful. I didn't have that context for the beginning of your journey, so that makes this even better, that you are where you're at these days in Kangen. So don't want to be intrusive for the people. Could you give us a range of where you and Jilly are at in terms of residual income in the company, just so people can understand?
Absolutely. Well, when you think about like Jilly, for example, she's got 6,000 to 7,000 sales under her belt, which is incredible, guys. These aren't just like $50 little filters. I mean, these are high ticket medical grade devices that doctors, hospitals, facilities, hotels, spas, homes, nurseries, cannabis grows, all are using right now. 20,000 machines are being bought a month. That's insane. That's close to that's in the 100 million plus revenue for this company that they're doing, before all the expenses and overheads that they take care of. So Jilly's got one of the biggest teams in Italy, which is really incredible. She's got 6,000 in more, probably more than sales. And she makes anywhere from, I'd say a slow month is $40,000, and a high month, her highest month is almost $80,000. And that fluctuates residually, and that fluctuates and varies. And then she's very close, probably within the next 50 to 70 sales with a couple of people in her downstream, she'll actually be locked in to receive $5,000 a month, guaranteed, no ifs, ands, or buts, for the rest of her life. That she can actually pass to our children, her children, wherever life takes us. She can actually pass it to her kids when she leaves. And coolest thing is the company plants a tree in your name in Okinawa, and they water it every day with Kangen, and you can go visit your tree when you hit that.
That's
so you're
dope.
the money tree. So there's literally a whole long row of about 50 trees of people that have been involved with Enagic for 30 plus years, because those numbers may seem big for a lot of people. We also connect and network with people that do that in a week with Enagic. I mean, crazy. And literally to think that this company is at less than 2% global market penetration on a product everyone needs, which is water, and does 50 things, it's going to be it'll be in every household in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's what she's doing, which is incredible. She's such an inspiration to me, and I used to compete with her so much. I'm sure you get that with Jax. Like you have that inner competition at times where it's like, shoot, okay, well, she's because she's my sponsor.
I'm a little too competitive for Jax.
I can get there too.
She doesn't want the smoke.
I could get there too. I bring all the smoke at times, and she knows, and I let her tell her, and then she looks at me and smiles, and then she points at her stack of checks, which are 4 times higher than mine. And I'm just like, all right, hey less. All right, who's doing the next call? So for me, it's been really cool, because even saying these numbers, I mean, these are numbers that really why I wanted to be in the NBA and why I wanted to make a lot of money. And I've always wanted to make a lot of money, is to give it back and to build with it. I don't really care for cars anymore. I don't really care for, like, I don't wear watches. Like I've been wearing the same clothes for years. I don't shop much. So to think of being able to share something that solves problems and helps people, that literally has brought tears to my eyes more times than you can count, from health changes and so forth. I'm slow month for me, about 20,000, which is awesome. And then a good month, anywhere from 30 to 40 consistently, which has been incredible too. So together we're bringing over 6 figures a month in our household. And then we diversify a lot of that. I'm more of the crypto, metals, investment side, and she's more of investing in the business, land patents, land eventually, reunions, activities, events, merchandise. So we like you guys talk about so much in the Level Up Collective, we make sure our money works for us somehow in some way, while matching the financial literacy. So that's why I tell people cash flow definitely helps, and then doing what you can do with cash flow. I think someone posted it today. Would you rather have 10,000 a month continually, or would you rather want me to write you a $1 million check right now? And some people will take the 1 million right away. Most people. Very good correction.
That's a human bias.
Most people will take the $1 million right away. I'll take the 10K consistently. That'll just keep flowing in. Because you can easily turn that into $1 million faster than you would of just sitting on the $1 million, not knowing what to do with it. So to have a cash flow right now, especially in the last 3 years with what I've gone through and humanity's going through with this great awakening, is a blessing. We've also worked our butt off for it. And I would say for those listening right now, there is this whole notion of being able to pointing your finger at XYZ, government, economy, politicians, this is evil, this sucks, taxes, oh, my neighbor, my boss, my landlord, my mom, my dad, and just so much of it's going outward. And it's literally, you're giving away your power. You're giving away your life force. I say your electrons. You're giving away your charge, and your battery is dying. Your battery is dying. And we just tend to go look to find a phone charger before we find a way to charge our own self up. And that's been a whole eye-opening thing that we really emphasize. And I know you do too with your community of guys, look, there's 2 things happening. You're either consuming or you're creating, and you can do both. Just make sure that you find some type of balance and get away from the imbalance of always consuming, because it's just natural. I mean, we're getting exposed to so much information. It's silly. So being able to navigate that, super helpful. But as far as residual wise, blessings, and that's one stream. As you know, we've got other streams. We've got other streams that come in with CBD companies, with coaching platforms, other affiliate programs, and then so forth.
And that's what's
powerful.
And that's what's beautiful about residual income. That's why I wanted to specify that's residual income.
Yep.
They're not trading their time for money. Earned income is the highest taxed income. That's what the
Exactly.
wealthy call 60% money.
Exactly.
Nowadays, it's more like 50% money, but at best. But residual income
Yeah.
is in a completely different um, ballpark in
And I
terms of financial literacy as well.
and I'll say this too. And Nagic has a comp plan. I got to share on this because it's pretty incredible. They took 2 years to make it. The Japanese, they took 2 years. This is from Okinawa in Japan. Very smart. One of the smart, you guys, the Japanese does everything top notch, the best quality, so much. They took 2 years to make this comp plan, and they set it up where if you do it correctly and you do just a couple of things that they recommend doing, I actually, as much money as I said I've generated and brought in, believe it or not, I have more money actually coming to me from the work I've done in the last 3 years. So when you can find a vehicle, if you're looking in that type of world, in that type of industry, so to speak, where you can find a company that will actually has the ability to pay you more later than you've already have now or have made in the past, that's where you literally can set yourself up for years. And because I could literally
Yeah,
stop right now for
that's
the
a
next
real asset.
3-4 years and do whatever I want. And
Yeah.
every day I can go to the mailbox and there's a check. That's what's really powerful. So to
Yeah,
think
and I
about
want to
any
talk
company.
about that
Yeah,
a bit.
absolutely.
Um, a bit later, I want to talk about that. It's, you know, it's a lot more than just what's taxed more and did you have to trade your time.
Yep.
It's a completely different approach of the wealthy build, they create assets
Mm-hmm.
that pay them for the rest of their lives and
Mm-hmm.
that they can pass to their kids. That can look like a business, that can look like joining a system, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a completely different worldview. So I'm excited to get into that. First, I want to kind of do a slight segue, but I really want to speak on this. I've never heard this brought up to you guys before, and so I really wanted to preface this. So first off, I follow less than 80 people on social media. I follow you and Jilly, and I watch what you guys do. I say that to say I'm the epitome of like a producer. I'm barely consuming, and my whole timeline is a very small group of people whom I consider high value. And so I'm very observational and I pay attention, right? Chris, you know me. I'm not the loudest one in the room. I'm the one quiet who's noticing things that other people maybe aren't.
Mm-hmm.
My perception of you and Jilly is that you guys come across as so like feminine energy and like airy fairy on social media. It's all about the flow and the waters and the feminine, especially Jilly's, but you as well, right? You're all about the right brain, different words, similar concepts. And so like when I was first watching you guys and following you guys in 2020 before I like really knew you, I had a completely different perception of you than like what you actually are. And it took me a solid year to really realize like, oh, they're like really like they know what they're doing. They're really like working out here. And so let me kind of clarify what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
So like you guys are very strategic in what you do, and in my opinion, it's most people have no clue about how strategic you guys are,
Mm-hmm.
how intentional you guys are, how much planning you guys do, how
Mm-hmm.
much consistency you guys implement, how much discipline you guys exhibit, because we don't necessarily see that. We
Right.
just see Jilly showing up and doing so many stories every single day that it's like looks like a little grain of sand on the screen every day, day in, day out. You constantly posting Twitter, Instagram, stories, calls. People don't necessarily, in my opinion, take the time. It's that consumer mindset.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, that haha, that's funny, or double tap. They don't really stop to think. Maybe
Yeah.
it's the entrepreneur brain in me. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I am analyzing and I'm like, I see you, good shit. So my question for you is, what is you guys' personal take on balance and work ethic? And the reason that I ask once again is because I don't know if this is for the whole company or just the Wake Water kind of like movement that you guys started. The essence of the Wake Water vibes is it's very like you attract people who are much more spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
feminine energy, who are like awake or they're awakening. To that type of person, the way that you guys talk and the things that you post about are dead in line, which shows to me you guys really understand like consumer behavior and your ideal client. But then from their perception, I think there's this unconscious assumption that like, oh, Jilly's just like dancing all day on her Instagram and like she makes this, or like Chris is just like completely flows with the day and he's just as weird as me, so like I can do this too. And I
Yeah.
think they may miss
Yeah.
what you're really fucking doing. And so
Yeah.
I just personally for myself as well, I just would love to hear your perception on this.
Yeah, man. No, that's good, and it's something that actually gets brought up often.
I
When you
thought so.
when you build community, just like you're doing with the Level Up Collective and anything, whether it's like a Freedom for Humanity, frontline doctors, you see all these little sub compartments happening because we've all been umbrellaed under this one big governmental. We're all the same. Just follow the lead, do this, do that. But ever since the pandemic, and just in the last probably 3 or 4 years, you're seeing these things fractal off, and you're seeing these communities being built. And what happens though is there are a lot of things that come up when dealing with community wounds that people have, of feeling and being in a space where you're allowed to say things, or you could share, hey, this is not for me, and you're like, okay, it's all good. Like there's this like it's like the stories. We always talk about the stories as a projection field. Jilly and I, just a side note too, are both fives in human design. So for those that are aware, you get what that is. If you're not, a five is like someone that people put on pedestals unconsciously. They'll put them out so far away and give them all their power. They'll put a lot of expectations on these people, and if you don't actually meet those, people will then go ahead and create a story about why you failed them, and why that you're a scam artist, or why that you're this false light, or any kind of story that goes on in the world. So that's something that Jilly actually lives out. She's a 5-2. She lives out that her natural aura can be triggering to many people without you even knowing her or even seeing her. You don't even have to see her. You could hear her, and her voice would be like poking your little bubbles of insecurities that people will have. For me, my five is in my head. And I usually let that out when I do talk, when I do my podcast, when I do my lives. So internally and externally, we have this balance. And then what people notice is, yeah, they think that all you got to do is post on Instagram, make some funny reels, or drop some truths about the world or whatnot, and things manifest. I'm telling you what, guys, like we're up at 5:36. We're working out every day. We've got a strict routine of what we eat. We have certain things that we put in our body. We've got body work that we take care of. I read maybe a book a week or two, like sometimes 3 or 4 in a month, whether it's skim read or fast read. Jilly is meditating for hours. She's journaling. She's got 4 assistants. She's got 2 website teams we have for our wake. She's on, sometimes me and her are on 5 to 12 or 15 calls a day. And these calls can be 20 minutes. They can be an hour long.
12 to 15 calls a day.
Sometimes on a busy day. Sometimes before noon, we've done like 5 or 6.
I'm really glad I asked this question.
It's pretty insane.
For your community and mine.
For what happens, people will come visit us and they'll come stay with us, and they will literally be like it's almost like someone's moving them to do something. Like, you can't come to our home and just sit all day.
Yeah.
Something here will make you want to go up.
Your energy is powerful.
It is crazy. Like, even you come into my office, you're like, whoa, can I ask you something? And it's like, yeah, it's okay. Like, because there's just a vortex happening.
You got like Sedona in your office.
Literally. I mean, this is the Cobb's Cave, I call it. And what'll happen, like, we exercise, like we don't really watch. We haven't had TVs in years. We don't really go on dates. We almost, like, if you were to guess, you wouldn't even think we're in a relationship. We're also okay with that. And that's very weird for people. Like, what do you mean? There's no like intimacy and all that. That energy is going to creating. That's going to PDFs for our team. That's going to videos. That's going to setting up events, which we're going to be traveling for 2 more weeks, having itineraries, flat travel, flight plans. And then we've got budgeting. Then we've got all the crypto stuff we're doing and allocating. Jilly's also learning how to go become a national and doing all the things, and sovereign, and setting up our trusts and getting land patents. We're looking for land here. And that's all can be done in a day. And it's insane. We maybe once or twice a day. We eat towards the end of the day. In passing, I'll see Jilly maybe once or twice, and I'll say hi. That's it. And we'll just go to our next thing. So that's like our daily lifestyle. Weekends, strong ends, cancel clear. I say strong ends. Strong ends, we usually rest. We chill out. But even that, we'll go to the farmer's market. I'll still go work out. We'll go, get self-care, or we'll just lay outside on the ground and just lay and just be and rest.
On the ground.
Literally, we'll just lay and rest and be. So as much as social media gives you a glimpse, if you were to have a camera on us 24/7, I'd almost be afraid to do that, because some people would not stop watching it. They would be like, wait, every call that we do, there's something that happens, a breakthrough. Like I could probably generate 15 reels a day just on someone recording me in my life. And same with Jilly. Because if you just go on what social media tells you, as much as the flowy, feminine, spiritual things that we've embodied, we're also really masculine, very structured, very strategic, very organized, very disciplined, very accountable. Take care of our bodies. We work out. We stay active. We build. We brainstorm. We work with teams. We have assistants. We've got managers. We've got website teams. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So then, like you said, it's just about finding the balance, because you can either be very overly masculine and forget to take care of yourself and surrender at times and just take a break and rest, or you can be very, like you said, oh, I'm just going to lay back and, that's what they're doing, and not do anything. And it's going to come to me. I'm going to attract it, and I'm not going to reach out. I'm not going to read a book. I'm not going to speak. And, I'm just going to be over here. So finding the balance, that's what we've been able to discover. And that's, like you said, that's what entrepreneurship, working for yourself, taking your power back, really allows you to explore. Because some of our biggest shifts in our community is not sales. It's not money. It's literally people shattering their old paradigms and jumping to a completely new timeline where they're a different person. And that different person is actually the real person who they actually truly are. They've just never been in a space or a container to actually discover that. Friends, family, media, society, expectations, programming, all that stuff hinders, and sometimes will put a box around us for us to really become who we are. So that's what's more happens behind the scenes. And if you don't believe me, even still, come on over, spend the day with us. You'll just see what we do in a typical day. Even I, at times, I'm like, what just happened? Like, how did we do a training call, a webinar, 6 coaching calls, and a three-way call, plus an IG live, 20 stories and a post, and 20 things on Telegram, 4 tweets, and also make sure to text my mom back and tell her I love her. That's a day. That's a good day for me. I love those days. Mm-hmm. I'm in the no mind. I am just completely surrendered. Just like, you're in the flow state where you could go, we joke, we could go 10 hours. Like, we could sit here for 10 hours and talk about anything and everything. And that's really what goes behind the scenes. We just give people a glimpse with social media, just some breadcrumbs, but that's not the loaf. That's the crumb. The loaf is off the screen.
Right.
And that's, when you meet us, when you get around us, you could feel that, you really can feel that, just like we did with you guys too. So that's just to clear all that up. A lot of stories about what I just shared. And last thing I'll say, I see everything that woman does. I've seen the amount of projections, arrows, stones, sticks, words, attacks, literally lawsuits, copywriting. She's so innocent in everything she does. And she doesn't always show what happens, the tears that happen after those things, like sitting alone in a room feeling. And I walk in and I see that with my partner. And I've seen that enough times where there's so many times I just want to get online or just go right to that person's house and tell them, nothing about this woman. Nothing about us. Keep your stories, keep your assumptions and projections and all these things out of our energy. Take it back to yourself and sit with it. And that's happened so many times. She's literally, I don't know if I should say this. There was one point where she was in a lawsuit for copyright for Merchant Mermaid, and
she told me about it.
And she had almost $80,000 frozen that she may have never gotten. And yet you would have never known, because she was still sharing, she was still coaching, she was still doing calls, she was still networking, she was still building, she was still working out, she was still taking care of herself, as if you would have never knew anything would happen. All while that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that is where my complete respect and admiration to her and to you and anyone else that does go through that. You know who you are if you're listening. If you can carry a shield and wear a sword and being able to put your best foot forward, even though behind you is hell at the moment, you are literally a warrior of God. I truly firmly believe that. And that's why you're seeing these warriors, these people step up right now in a time where there is chaos happening. And if you can't handle it in here, if you can't not handle it in here first, and you're trying to fix the problems outside in the world second, and if you haven't done that part's going to have a lot of maybe misalignment that could come back and slap you right in the face to go sit your ass down and sit with the things you're feeling and work through them and feel them, and then come out better to then go pour into others. We tend to skip that step in society. We like to pour into others from a broken glass or a glass that's leaking. I'm pouring into you when mine's overflowing. So until that happens, here's my space, here's my boundary. You know, fuck around, find out. That's my whole saying lately. FO, fuck around, find out. Apparently, I said it back in April at our reunion. I was joking about it, and as soon as I got home, here we go. The first little trigger, the Q movement, like the awakening stuff, True Social. Lo and behold, fuck around, find out appears. I kid you not. It was a week after I started saying that. I had never seen it anywhere before. And I literally was like, okay, this is going to be something that I really want to embody. So the whole FAFO thing has really grown. And that's how I roll, man. Fuck around, find out at this point. Yeah, you got something. FAFO.
I was wondering where that came from. That's good. That's good context.
Fuck around. No more YOLO. It's all FAFO. YOLO is out.
So quick little comment that what you were talking about really speaks to my soul. It's almost like people who go through that, we don't ever even talk about it except to each other. I've talked to Jilly about it. I've experienced the same things, and it's like, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? I don't say that to be narcissistic. I don't think I'm wearing a crown or anything like that. But I'm just saying, when you put yourself out there, when you put yourself in a position of leadership, everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants to be making $80K a month residually, just checks to the house. But not everybody understands who you have to be, what you have to endure, the resiliency, the ability to regulate your emotions is huge for wealth. That's like, I'm always talking to my community about that. Like, you want to be rich, learn to regulate your emotions. If you can't handle a little fight with your partner and it sabotages your day, you think you're going to be able to manage millions of dollars?
Right.
Not a chance. So it's all training, and it's beautiful that you share that. And yeah, absolutely. You and Jilly are goals, and you guys are building something awesome, man. I want to kind of dive into the MLM topic. There's a lot we could both say, and there's a lot we could both say.
Nervous system's getting triggered, stress, goosebumps. Here we come. Blood pressure's rising for some.
Speaking of nervous system regulation, this is a perfect time. So here's my 2 cents. I think that MLMs get and what is just, I'm not going to assume everyone knows what MLM means. That means multi-level marketing, network marketing, direct sales. These types of companies like Herbalife, Vima, Enagic, Arbonne is one, right? Mary Kay, like with the business model where someone who uses and enjoys the product is selling it to you, and they benefit from that. That's basically the system. They don't hire like salespeople, blah, blah, blah. We're in this space where MLMs get so much shade, and it's almost like if you're the second someone finds out like, oh, that's an MLM, like it's almost like there's a type of person who just wants to discredit you. I dealt with that
100%.
9 years ago, and I can guarantee you deal with that today.
Yeah.
It just comes with the territory. A lot of people think that they're sketchy, et cetera, et cetera. There's all sorts of different public perception. My personal opinion is, if you've never been in one, you might want to think twice before speaking on one. It's easy to have opinions about things we know nothing about. Hashtag politics. Everyone has opinions, right? They're like assholes. Everyone has one. So I want to kind of give a little bit of a backstory on kind of like a little bit about my journey in regards to MLM. So when I was 20, I was introduced to Vima. It was like big across college campuses. And there was a kid who was a freshman who was, so he's 18, 19. He was making, I want to say 20 to 30,000 a month, driving the company paid for Mercedes S-Class. That's crazy back then. It's crazy in general. And so, you know, it's kind of spread in my friend's fraternity, and I wasn't in their fraternity, but most of my friends were in this one fraternity. And so I went to a meeting, and I had just hit rock bottom and woken up in jail, and I committed to not drinking. I was no longer going to be doing drugs. And I
Wow.
needed something to replace my time and et cetera. And so that was why I got into fitness, which was my first business. And I also started Vima. And I gave it a solid, I'd say like 24 months, kind of like you spoke about the on and off thing. Like after I graduated college and came back, there was definitely a period of time where like you want to go, whatever, something happens or you just want to break or whatever. But for the most part, it was about 24 months. And so it didn't work out for me, but I would never blame the company.
Yeah.
It didn't work out for me because I wasn't who I needed to be.
Yeah.
But that's not even what I'm trying to talk about. So during that period of time, and I talk, my students know all about this, but I just want it out here for the public.
Yeah.
And anyone who follows my podcast, by the way, should know I would never kiss my guest's ass. I speak my mind. If I disagree with Chris, I'll let him know live on the podcast. So I'm not saying this because they're in an MLM type company. This is my actual belief. During that period of time, the education that I was given was more valuable than K through, so I'm 20, so whatever that is, K through my junior year in college. In a year, it was more valuable than the rest of my entire education. And what was cool is I was in college, so I could compare the two.
Yeah.
I could I'm going to classes, right? I'll have 3 classes, and then we got a meeting at 1 where so-and-so is talking from so-and-so's upline and, try to bring someone, etc. And so I got to compare, like I just got out of, business marketing class, and then I get to see how real world marketing is done. And like, it was just night and day of like the difference of one was training me to be on a conveyor belt and go sit in a cubicle. Yep. And one was training me to actually have like real life people skills, leadership, build something. So the education was invaluable. That introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki, introduced me to Zig Ziglar. It introduced me to Les Brown. It introduced me to Darren Hardy. It introduced me to, what's the bald guy whose mastermind you guys went to? Eric Worre.
Going to his house in a few weeks.
Yeah, so it introduced me to like personal development goats, Tony Robbins, all the goats. It introduced me to The Secret, the law of attraction. I did not know about the law of attraction until Vima. That single thing changed the rest of my life. Like, imagine living and not knowing that your thoughts create your reality. I didn't know that. I cried when I watched the video. I cried, and I knew that I got full body chills. I knew that my life was never going to be the same. Wow. Because I was a victim. I felt bad for myself. Why me? Why do I keep waking up in jail? Why do I keep getting caught, getting in trouble? And then the environment. The environment was just as much, if not more, of a benefit. So I'm 20 and I'm around people my age, younger than me, or slightly older than me. All of them pulling up in fully loaded BMWs, Mercedes. And once again, it's not the material thing that matters. The company paid for that. It's more about, how are you 20 and you're speaking with such confidence and ease to a room of 50, 75, and most people are older than you. And it's completely cold too. They don't know who you are. That was very eye-opening. And then seeing some people's upline and just getting to see the lifestyles that they live, making 6 figures, multiple 6 figures residually. One of the guys in my upline driving Bentleys, he's 24. His dad was one of the highest earners in the entire company, like one of the first people in the very first upline. And it was crazy to see what they considered normal. They would be devastated if they made $10,000 in a month. And I had less than that in my bank account, including like that was supposed to pay for my semester and livelihood. And so it was just this massive paradigm shift. It was a paradigm shift. And so it wasn't my time. I was 20. I just woke up in jail. I just learned about mindset. I just started reading personal development. That's what got me into that as well. And that's a habit I've carried the entire decade. And so it didn't happen overnight for me because I wasn't who I needed to be. But I didn't blame the company. I went on to start a fitness business that did pretty well. I evolved from that into some life coaching, spiritual coaching. That did even better. I evolved from that into kind of like conscious business coaching. That did even better. And then I evolved from that into the wealth mastermind that I now run. And that's doing the best out of anything I've ever done. So it's been this stepping stone thing, and it didn't happen overnight. But I don't think No, I know I wouldn't have gotten here. I wouldn't have been able to get here because those seeds never left me. It was like I saw them and I was like, back to this competitive shit when you brought up like you and Jilly, right? It used to just eat me up. I would see someone, and on the weekends, they're partying. They act like a douchebag. All they care about is like what chicks are they with, blah blah blah. And then come Monday, they're doing Vima meetings and they're making racks, and I'm just like, why is that person successful and I'm not? Like, I'm staying in on the weekends, going to the library, doing 3-hour workouts on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, like staying in while my friends go out, reading personal development, just like paying my dues, right?
Wow.
That used to like eat me alive. Like,
Yeah.
why them? Why not me? Why them? When I see what they're actually doing, right? But the thing is time has a beautiful way of evening things out. When you allow enough time to pass, your time will come if you're doing the right things when no one's looking behind the screen, right? And so that was it for me. So long story, but I've never spoke on that fully, and I've been wanting to speak on that. So maybe I'll just address that instead of doing a full podcast episode on my own about that. Now I want to ask you a question about all that. So now that you understand a little bit about my experience, you've had your own experience, I'm sure we could talk a lot about that. What are the 3 most important ideas, maybe values, like core values, or paradigms, or even skills that working in Enagic has taught you?
Hardest part we always say is the narrowing it down to 3, because I probably
3. I know.
I probably get 300, and when this podcast ends, I'll be like, shit, that was another good one too.
This is good training for IG Reels.
Exactly.
Here are the top 3 things Enagic taught me.
That's it.
It's hard to whittle it down.
And that Twitter skill, guys. Another little side note: if you ever struggle with getting your point across, go get it across in one tweet. Use Twitter as a template. Just thank me later. It's a great little skill to embody. First of all, everything you said was so spot on, and that's what I feel. I'm like, if I talk time travel a lot, which we could touch on that. I've got a lot to say. I time travel a lot in my head, and a lot of my coaching stems from the things that I wish I could whisper in Chris's ear years ago.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, that's because for most people, where you see someone at today, you were once where they were. Where you are at today, someone sees you as some place that they want to be. And it's all relevant. And that's why time is the most absurd thing and concept that has kept us trapped. And it's also the greatest tool that we can learn how to really realize how connected and similar we are. So for many people, when they start network marketing, entrepreneurship, direct sales, MLM companies, referral marketing, affiliate marketing, all these are different avenues that really tie back into word of mouth, sharing something. If you're doing it to make money, you can. And if you're doing it to enjoy a product, you can. Absolutely. And if you're doing it to just limit it yourself to those 2 variables, you can, and you're missing out on the whole rest of the buffet of what this has to offer. Like my father would say, you literally channel my father, doing things the right way, and God will pay you at the right time. Yeah. And you literally hit that on the money. And that was the coolest thing I've heard, because what happens is the right away results is the carrot on the stick, and you're on the treadmill and you'll never catch it. Nope. The right away results literally deflect you away from a course that is designed for you to hit the whole alphabet instead of just try to figure out how to skip from A to Z. It's not so much the money you make, the products you use, the products you share, the demos you do, and all that stuff. That's a part of it. That's like an ingredient in your recipe. The other stuff, which doesn't pay you for, you get paid when you make a transaction. So being able to overcome this whole self-development, growth, doing the right things the right way, putting up boundaries, creating a schedule, prioritizing, delegating, being disciplined, holding yourself accountable, all these little things that we don't get paid to do. Yet God pays us in ways later, which now has manifested into his wealth mastermind, which is massive and is now impacting probably more people than he ever could those years where he was maybe trying to make money or just do something, get rich quick or whatever that might be, is very, very important. So if you're looking to go into this type of industry, whatever that might be, those variables all come into play. Go into it with a lens of you are going to be a different person in order to achieve different results. You're going to be a different person. If you think you're not, You're living in a fantasy land. And I'll pop that bubble again, pop that bubble. That bubble is now gone because all those expectations and assumptions keep you from actually saying yes or taking the first step. So that's really cool that you touched on that, and super important for people, because these industries, guys, it's not like they're going away anytime soon. And it's not like they've also peaked. They are still building slowly. Every year, these industries, direct sales, network marketing, have grown. It's $1 billion industry. 280 billion was generated in 2021. That was last year, guys. 280 billion. And that is all generated by people like me, you, your neighbor, mom and dad, without a degree, without a PhD, without a sales background, with anything. So it's the greatest thing, and the self-development. And what I've learned over the years, being able to narrow it down to those three things that really I've valued or learned from, one is communication. First and foremost, I have become such a great communicator, and I've worked with some amazing people that are able to communicate and know, hi, my name is Chris, how are you, isn't just, that's talking. There's a lot of talkers. There's a lot of just babble. There's a lot of half truths. There's a lot of unconscious language, I like to call it. Communication, though, right? I have this book right on my desk. I look at it all the time, right here, The Art of Communication. This book is the most simply written book that breaks down the most simple concepts of being able to communicate something you see, that you know, that you believe, into something that's simple and tangible for a 5-year-old or a 50-year-old can understand. Because so many of us have these great ideas. We have so many thoughts. We have so many visions. We have so many inventions. Our ability to communicate that is where it really lacks and does not come into manifestation, in my opinion. So communication.
Can you say that again?
Say what?
That was a gem. Can you say that again?
So our ability to have these visions, to have these thoughts, to have these ideas, to have these downloads, to have these aha moments, to have these insights, to have these creativity, to have this goal, to have this invention, this idea, all of these things which floats around here all the time in our heads, all over the world. Billions of people have it. The thing that keeps that from turning into something, the barrier that keeps that from turning into something, is that we do not know how to speak it into existence. Because there's many ways that you can speak things out. And many of the times we're canceling ourselves, we're overriding ourselves, we're disempowering ourselves by the words that we speak. So communication, language, diction, verbiage, syntax, left brain things, that has been one of the greatest teachers, because I had no clue how to talk to somebody.
I love that. The ones you touched on are all internal, like dealing with the person trying to communicate. But then there's the human behavior and human psychology aspect. That is where I've seen the most growth. You have to understand humans, because I don't care what business you're talking about, or even if you're not talking about business, you want to attract your dream partner. Well, you better know how to communicate and better know how to discern their needs and pick up on nonverbal cues and understand what motivates people. Because, like, for example, a lot of people try to motivate people through money alone. Well, a lot of people aren't motivated by money. So what do you do when you have an employee or a prospect who's not motivated by money? Right? Like, it's that intuitive soft skill of knowing who you're talking to. In my opinion, if you're good enough at communicating, you don't need to sell.
No.
And if you're selling, maybe you're not good enough at communicating.
There you go.
That's been my experience.
Love it.
Yeah. That was what I would try to do, because I didn't know, I lacked this stuff I actually needed. So I'd try to force what we call leg humping in sales. Right? You're trying too hard. They can feel that the polarity. They pull back because you're too into them.
Yeah. Pushing and pulling.
Versus when you know how to communicate, you know how to tell a story, you know how to speak to people's underlying unconscious wants and needs and drivers. Fears. It depends. Integrity is needed, not promoting scarcity, etc. But sometimes there's a realistic look. That's the game changer right there.
Absolutely. And I've been saying this. I'll call it a label. I don't like labels. I have been saying this, though. When you keep learning this, I'm not going to say master it, because there's always something that'll keep coming in. That's the beauty of life. I call myself a subconscious coach. What does that mean? Where like you said, my awareness now of my own self, how my brain works, how I think, how I operate, body language, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, all the different hemispheres, our language, all these things. And so when you can really talk to somebody and talk to their subconscious mind, talk to who they really can be instead of who they are today.
Exactly.
So I tell people on our leader calls in our community, I don't talk to you guys as who you are today with your bank account, your rank, your following, even the color of your hair. Like I don't know who that is today. I talk to them as if they're 5 or 10 years from now and they have $10 million in assets and they're ready to build something. And you should have seen the faces on everyone on the call. No one's ever said that to them, as if you talk to somebody that you see the best version of. It's a hard thing to do because you look at them and then they might be at a funk. They may be bankrupt. They may have lost their job or have been divorced. And we have a tendency to talk to that person now. And you can honor that person now. And then what I've found when I've been able to do, social media has helped me a lot learn this skill, is talk to people of who they are becoming, where they're going and what they're going to do, because sometimes all that takes is that's the spark to their spark plug. They just need a little push. And so that's why communication, like you said, the nonverbal, the body language, even social media, like I can read comments now and I can get an idea of how their nervous system is processing
100%.
this thing. You're like, oh my gosh, dude,
100%.
this is
That's why TikTok's a dangerous place.
It's insane.
There's a lot of hurt people on TikTok.
Lots.
A lot of hurt people.
The amount of consumption and absorption of information just pushes down those hurt more. And so they find an avenue of a guy they don't know with a neon background, dropping truth, helping the world. To them, though, he's poking the pressure points that they don't know this.
Yeah.
They're a loser. They're a failure. So I'm going to go give this guy my 2 cents and then jump off and go find another account to dump on. Yeah. It's insane. And I bet if all TikTok users were listening right now, any age, are like, whoa, that's me. It's okay. Like, that's okay. It's just this awareness we're talking about really helped me. So communication for sure. Number one, I would say, which it's cliche as it sounds, in either both of these words are interconnected. It's just consistency and discipline. There's no secret, guys. There's no, you don't just become at these places in athletics, in, whatever you put people on a high pedestal, which we all are up there in our own journey, in our own way. The only difference is they've just probably been doing it a little bit longer, and they probably have more days of showing up, and they have more days where they are going to do instead of just think. They have more days of going to the gym, even if they didn't want to. It's just numbers. Like, what you lack in skill, you make up in numbers, and that can be applied in so many ways. If you're a bad communicator, go talk to as many people as possible. You'll learn so much than trying to read every book under the sun. Like, what you lack in skill, you can make up definitely in numbers. And so that's been a huge one, discipline and consistency. Because like you said, dude, if I were to dive into like all the shit I went through with my dad and his healing and his cancer and oncology and pharmaceuticals, you wouldn't expect me to even show up for my own self. I did a webinar 4 days before he passed, because he would always tell me, no matter what, you keep doing the things you committed to. And to even contemplate that when my dad was like going through the hardest times of his life with his health, and yet I would make sure I'd take care of him first, but then I would make sure, hey, I got to get my post out. And you'll have people say, oh, take a day off. Like, hey, give yourself some rest. I did rest. I rest when I sat next to him while he rests. But when I were to go out there and put that out there, that showed me a whole level of discipline and commitment I never knew was possible. To lose your grandma, grandpa, and your dad in the same year, all during the pandemic 2020, also while experiencing it, also me and Jilly survived a near-death car accident in September, a month before, and a couple other things that I'll keep private, that all happened in 1 year. And it happened to me the biggest financial year of my life because of my discipline and commitment. Not to prove anything, just because that's what was instilled in me by my father at a young age. And so that then manifests. So communication, discipline, consistency. How
about a paradigm one for the last guy?
Paradigm one?
Yeah, like a mindset or a way you view reality now that you wouldn't have viewed it that way.
Yeah.
If it weren't for surrounding yourself with the company and all that the company has connected you with,
Yeah.
or et cetera?
Yeah. I would say my biggest paradigm shift, you go back to language. Maybe it's because I'm all left brained. I don't know. Communication. Yeah. When everything changed for me is when I opened myself up to the possibility that I was literally 100 to 500 words away from living a completely different life. And then people are like, well,
Holy shit.
what do you mean? Yeah. Like some people think, oh, I got to do this. I was 100 to 500 words away, speaking, feeling, embodying, and repeating away from changing my life.
Wow.
Because most
I
of the
feel like
words,
I need to sit with that. I've never heard that. Mm.
average person speaks 10 to 20,000 words a day. So I look at that as a bank account. Do you want to go to bed with a negative number in your bank account? No, of course not. You want a positive. You'd want to go to bed with that positive $2,000 green, right? That you get from crypto, trading, investments, the check in the mail. We all want it. Yet 99% of us go to bed negative. Why? It has nothing to do with your bank account. It has nothing to do with your diet. It has nothing to do with your lifestyle. It has nothing to do with the clothes you have, the car you drive. It has nothing to do with your partner. Nothing to do with your spirituality. It has nothing to do with TV. It has nothing to do with any of that. It literally has to do with the words you speak. Because since the moment you said dad, dad, mama, you have not stopped talking. You have not stopped talking. And here's the thing, most people talk more in their head. So only you know what those words actually are. And it's sometimes the scariest place that you would never want to let anyone in. Because imagine someone says, oh, if you could hear what was going on in here, you would think I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will think that.
For sure.
If Justin, if you could only hear the voice in my head, you would not want to be around me. So if that's the case, and you actually spent energy, you actually spent because you use energy, whether you use your phone or not, if it's running all day, you're using battery. We are literally on autopilot most of our day. Good. That could be a good and bad thing. If you're using energy to talk what isn't, here's my shift. If I'm using the same amount of energy to say I can't, I won't, I shouldn't, I couldn't, I didn't, the comma, apostrophe T, probably the two symbols, apostrophe T, that have literally taken dreams away, self-sabotaged, limited someone's belief, broken them down to a way that they have no else but to look for an external savior. They have no other way to look except someone come save me, or the government's going to bail me out, or my partner's going to do it all for me. If you've gotten to this place where you've broken yourself down so much because the amount of words, those 100 to 500 words, maybe 1,000, those amount of words, you took the energy to say, I can't, I won't, I couldn't, I shouldn't, I didn't, try, maybe, hope, doubt, think, possibly, attempt, all those in between babble words have literally resulted in your bank account. The result of those is your partner. The result of that is your influence. The result of that is your current diet, your relation to food. Your result of those words is your current reality. So if I could simply erase the apostrophe and erase the T, craziest thing, apostrophe and a T. If I could get rid of those words, if I can get rid of those symbols, because the symbols rule the world. If I could take those symbols away, because remember, God is what is, the devil is what isn't. As soon as you go in the what isn't, oh, crypto, it's new world order, we're doomed. Great reset, we're done. That's what isn't. There's also what is. And the moment I jump from that glass to that glass of what isn't to what is, everything else took care of itself. Money started to grow, following started to grow, diet got better, lifestyle got better, workouts got better, relationships got better, communication got better, discipline got better, motivation got better. Literally all the things we all want. But it was because I made that jump, not from a book, not from a podcast, not from a seminar, not from anything else. I made the jump internally to choose, okay, I am now letting go of these words that don't serve me anymore. What or what isn't, can't, wouldn't, couldn't, shouldn't, didn't, try, want, attempt, maybe, think, kinda, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I could eliminate those words and upgrade them to I will, I know, I choose, I claim, I can, I I confirm, I will, they will, he will, she will, they do, you, like all those. You can even say those, and your body will literally start changing. Your DNA will start changing. Your cells that communicate, remember, because cellular communication matches internal communication. The words you speak and the words you think are the same words your trillions of cells are doing to each other. So if you have these I can't, wouldn't, couldn't, shouldn't, your cells of your shoulder, your stomach, your spleen, your pancreas, your gut, your muscles, your bones are all saying, hey, we can't, we wouldn't, we shouldn't, we couldn't. And they're going to stop replicating. They're going to stop duplicating. And then that carries over into business, and your network stops networking. You stop duplicating. You stop rebuilding. You stop recreating. That's why they say in the beginning was the word. And that was my biggest paradigm shift. It's like getting to this quantum level of communication and language where you're apostrophe and a T away, eliminating those two symbols from your vocabulary. Choose to do it. I was going to say try, cancel, clear. Choose to do it a day. See how that makes you feel, and then do it the next day and the next day. After a few days or weeks of that, with full awareness, your life will change. How? That's your decision. That's your discovery. For me, I've seen the results, and I'm choosing. I catch myself. Instead of I'm not looking back, I'm choosing to keep moving that forward. Mm-hmm. That's hard to do. All right. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to overtalk, Justin. I'm not going to say too much. Instead, Justin, I'm going to be very present, and I'm going to listen first before I share. See the difference?
For sure.
Listen, I'm not going to bother them. No, I won't bother them. Hey, instead, I will give them space. I will give them space instead of I don't want to bother them. That's all it takes. So those jumps, every sentence, it's in my captions, in my stories. You'll notice my language. I've made the jump in every word I spoke. So that's my paradigm shift, going from what isn't to what is. I don't have the money to start this. Okay. So that's what isn't. What's the, right? So here that's what isn't. That's what isn't. Flip it. What is? Here's what we do every day. And we hope it's a good result. We try to make it happen. We attempt. We might. We think, maybe. Should I? Could I? And all you got to do is flip the coin and go, it will happen. I'm going to do this. It is done. I'm so confident. I can. I know. I will. I do. And that's all it took. And then I just started making that a priority every single day, and my whole world changed. And that's what led to it.
What you're saying is so fucking powerful. It's so simple.
It's easiest.
Simple. That people are going to overlook this. Mm-hmm. So I want to highlight it a little bit more as to kind of what you're speaking to. I think that what you're talking about is changing your identity. You're describing how you changed your identity. The problem for people who may be listening to this and they're like, that's, you're so motivating, Chris. That sounds great. But
see, you just canceled all that. That's what they'll do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What arises for a lot of people is if they were to actually do what you're saying, there's no more excuses. And that's terrifying. If you can't blame anyone, you recognize that the word creates life. You're like naked.
Yep.
Now you're just stripped down.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you experience what people mean when they talk about radical honesty. I really hope you guys soak that part in and maybe even rewatch that aspect. Very simple. I haven't heard anyone explain it in the way of, you didn't go into any complicated practice. There was no life-altering ayahuasca ceremony that did the work for you. There's no transcendent experience that just shifted you. It was a conscious decision, day in and day out. Oh shit, I just said I can't. Let me rephrase that. I choose to
cancel
blank.
Clear.
And it's that you're going to have to, you don't just shift it in one day. It's a process of catching yourself.
Yep.
But exactly like you said, most of the things we're saying, we're not saying them out loud.
Right.
So what are the 5 to 10 recurring thought loops that are most common in you guys' minds, and kind of sitting with those, maybe even writing them down
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out how those can be reframed? What
Yeah.
are more empowering stories that you can tell yourself? So
Yeah.
love what you shared there. I want to do a bit of a hard pivot. For anyone who doesn't know, Chris is very educated on a lot of the topics that I speak on, which get me labeled as a conspiracy theorist. It's laughable. Kind of what I want to ask you is, can you break down for us a brief macro overview, maybe in a few minutes, maybe 3 minute ish explanation of who runs the world, and how you, in your perception, how you see all of this laid out? Like, I don't know if you want to go into like what's connected top down. I don't know if you want to go into like how do they pull this off. I don't know if you want like whatever's feeling good for you. Just
Yeah.
I'd like to hear kind of your take on it, and let our audience hear a little bit about this.
Absolutely. Well, one of my go-to things that I say is, when in doubt, just zoom out. And the ability to zoom out is just like language, just like changing I can't to I can. As easy as it sounds, to be consistent with it and to allow yourself to do that. Like you said, some people will not allow themselves to do that because they know that that's the very thing that's making them go on these loops. When it comes to the whole world, and this is a topic that I love.
I know you do.
I literally feel like every time I share about it, I'm on a spaceship or I'm flying on the back of a phoenix, just flying around the planet, like thousands. I mean, I'm up in the ionosphere, all right, a little bit right near the dome, so to speak. There's the first little conspiracy trigger.
Jackson love that.
I live, and when I say dome, I'm not talking like a glass type of thing that you find at the playground. That's again that's more quantum physics if we were to get into that. But you're talking about places where I don't know if it's a gift that I have that God bestowed upon me, that I have this ability to just go somewhere without having to meditate or do plant medicine, and I can actually
Like astral travel kind of.
yeah, without doing that. Like I can do it right now. Like
Yeah.
I like
You
simply
just take your consciousness
yeah.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the ability to connect all these dots, because the thing is, it's tricky with this type of topic, and I'll touch on, and I'll share. It's tricky for people because for many people, there's like a certain linear way of looking at the bigger picture, instead of, I say there's 8 billion realities at once. Every person that's alive is living in their own frequency and dimension, and together in real time, like a quantum supercomputer, which exists and actually is fabricated with our reality currently, which I'll discuss in a minute. It's putting it together faster than you and I can even think or blink. It's beyond our comprehension when you get to that place, because the conscious mind that we use in our head is about 10% of our brain. And there's things out there that, they talk about using more of your brain. What happens when you use 20% of your brain, 50% of your brain, 80% of your brain? We're not ready yet as a collective to know more parts of our brain, so to speak, just like we may not be ready yet to know all of the truths of the world, how it started, what really happened back then, what are all the secrets of our bodies, and how really does energy work, and technology and quantum physics and so forth. So with all that pre-frame, this all really started, remember, because we live in a time right now where we've our lifeline, we're about 30, I'm 33 years old. Like the 33 years we have lived is literally a blink in a day of what this whole world has been. And that's however you want to break down time. So we've got to realize that as much as we feel that this has been happening forever, it really hasn't. And when I say hasn't, the apostrophe T, what I really mean is that it's felt like forever, but really it's just a blink of the eye where evil's been able to come in and infiltrate and take over this planet and make it a matrix system, a place where everything is constructed where it's not to our advantage. It's a world built on what isn't. There you go. Put that together. It's a world built on what isn't, and that's Babel. That's the Babylon. That's the Illuminati stuff. That's all the Khazarian mafia, the bloodlines, Constantine changing the Bible, the Vatican hacking the Bible, all these things that you can really dive into. What really started to happen was back in like what was it? Just like a 1000 AD. There was all these different things occurring with the Vatican, with the Crusades, with the Templars. Then you have the Freemasons. Then you had the Illuminati, you had the Khazarian mafias right around those times, like within those hundreds of years, give or take, without going right on the money with it. You've had things like the Jesuit order. You had things like there's so many things. And what birthed from it, what really birthed from all that was money. It was money. And so when you say who runs the world,
the control of money, right?
Exactly. Who controls the world? It's whoever knows at the highest level what to do with money, how to move it, how to control it, how to manipulate it, because we live I don't know anybody today, at least that doesn't live off the grid in a bubble and they have everything from scratch, which they didn't use money to buy. Every person on this earth, whether it's $1 a day or you're making $1 million a day, money is a part of your life. And that's something that we've got to accept as a collective in order for us to move forward.
Especially in the spiritual space.
Oh my gosh, this whole bypassing that all money is evil. Like we shouldn't be working. We shouldn't do anything with our life except sit at home all day and just.
You shouldn't charge for your services.
You shouldn't charge for your service. Totally get all those lenses. I get it. And at the same time, there's much more to it. Can you let yourself see beyond that without getting attached or have expectation? If you can do so, you have that emotional stability to handle this type of information, which is important. And those that are sharing it have been able to grasp this. So you really look back, it all really happened, like if you can give it in a nutshell, like the French Revolution and those times when central banks, the Rothschilds, start buying up everything in Europe. They start controlling and they start their global pillage. That's where like the real New World Order, like tyranny, one government, one religion started, was really after that French Revolution. You have Napoleon, the Rothschilds got a message before Napoleon got back from the end of the war. Rothschilds went to the UK, London or the UK, the Parliament, and he told everybody to sell all their stuff. He sold all their stuff. And as soon as it hit rock bottom, he bought it all. Yep, that was easy. I just took control of Europe. That's a business model. And when you can know how to do that and you just did it one time and there's no resistance and there's no social media, there's no truthers, their conspiracy theory term wasn't even created at that point. That's when you now have global control. Yeah. So he did that with Europe. Then he went to Germany. Then they went to Poland. Then they created the NATO. Then they created the European Union. And then it just trickled to India, trickled all over. It became the octopus, and the octopus now grabbed everything. And when you control the money, you now can allow trafficking to happen. You now can have drugs to happen. You now can allow wars to happen. You now create disease to happen because you create the problem, you sell the reaction, and provide the solution. And then the whole premise is, well, Chris, why does that matter to me? Why does that matter? That was hundreds of years ago. Like, right? Though people think this. People don't. Yeah. People think that what happened back then is not affecting them today. And the hardest part of that is they're going to realize it does affect them in a way that is reactive instead of proactive. So when you have something where you control the money, because if you control the money supply and you control where it goes, how much it's worth, you can rig the stock market, because the stock market got rigged there. They found a way to rig the US market, Chinese market, Japan's market, Canada's market. And when you have all of this and you're in control and you have good guys coming in, now you got blackmail. Now you've got murder. Now you've got hitmen. Now you have nothing that can stop you. And that's why it's grown from disease, poverty, homelessness, lack of clean water, pollution, global corruption, treason, sedition, manipulation, extortion, bribery, trafficking, manipulation. Then you get a hold of mainstream media, which then allows you to share your art of communicating. Imagine now having a microphone, you get to say what isn't, and you get to tell the world what isn't.
Who owns the media?
Who owns the media? That's a good question. You've got those families that knew how to do this stuff. They're very smart families, and they're also very stupid. And I hope you hear me if you're listening out there. Your reign is over. Powers that were. They're all out of power, by the way. I'll touch on that in a minute. Those families that are very smart, bloodlines that go way back. They some say the Phoenicians, they say the Jesuits, they say the Illuminati, all these different things. Whatever. At the end of the day, you're not gonna meet them. So just get over. You're not gonna meet them. It's going to be just a part of history that the world will know when the world's ready, and we're already getting a taste of that.
Yeah.
So they have been able to, they've been able to master banking,
Yep.
linguistics, symbology, at the same time delegating it to Satanism, pedophilia, trafficking, cannibalism. That goes back to the biblical times. And this, some of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff like, oh, this is evil. Yeah, that's why we're in the mess we are today. And that's
Yeah.
why it's impacting people. So they found a way to get this what isn't into the media, which now blankets the world. They
Mm-hmm.
found a way to get into government and politicians. So now they're the puppet masters. They found a way to get into our food supply. So they have GMO processed, chemical laden glyphosate, mustard gas food. They found a way to get into the water supply, fluoridation, chemicals, chlorines, and so forth. They found a way to get into medicine. Flexner Report 1910, they outlawed that, brought in pharmaceuticals. You talk holistic medicine, you're done. Your license is over. You're following Rockefeller. They found a way to get into education, make it a linear school system, preparing you for the workforce so you don't question life, and hopefully make it to 65 when you go into a world that's designed to kill you from the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, and the thoughts you have. And then they found a way to influence and infiltrate entertainment, which they now have puppets and celebrities and idols that clearly worship Satan in the open and support all this evil that goes around. And then you have the banking, which you have central banks, the Federal Reserve, which is the head of honcho of all central banks, that fractional reserve, lend out money, prey on the innocent, provide for the weak, but then expect in return, so you're enslaved. And then you have commerce, which I'll stop there because you got the best guy that can teach you about commerce with Justin and all those different things. So to answer your question, it started with a drop and turned into a web. And the web has suffocated humanity. Oh, and then it infiltrated the church, infiltrated religion, another huge one, and all those
Massive one.
and
Yeah.
dogmas. And then it infiltrated spirituality. So
Mm-hmm.
everything has been infiltrated. Everything has taken what is, this is what is, and the devil made it what isn't. Because the devil works on the notion of illusion. It works on mirroring back to you that we're not in control, the government is, when in reality, we created the government to control them. So they take what is ours, they flip it to what isn't ours, and then they tell us why it isn't ours and why we have to give up all of our energy, rights, power, and sovereignty to get it back. And it's a whole psychological aspect. So it's the mental matrix that has put the box on our head. It's the matrix that does not allow you to think outside the box. And if you do, you're dubbed a name, which then the CIA, these agencies, which is another thing they infiltrated.
Yeah,
FBI,
they came
CIA,
up with that.
all those different things, they'll infiltrate it, and then they infiltrate our language. And they change the words of the Bible. They change our English language. The English language is one of the hardest languages to learn because we can't even get there, and there right. We don't even know how to spell there, and there. And we think we're ready to know humanity's truths. We've got a ways to go. The good news is, we want to be able to teleport and all this stuff. We can't even get there, and there right. Is it THEIR? As a collective, for the most part, we struggle with that. So how are we supposed to accept these truths if we can even accept how to spell words? So the good news is, though, with all that said, if you're really paying attention and if you're really taking the time, which I don't expect you, and I say don't, is I don't expect anybody to take the time to keep up with everything, to follow everything, because there's no way you can. I mean, there's truly, unless you're God working behind the scenes. If you can trust and have faith and know that for every Darth Vader you think that is out there, which we all think 90% of the world's Darth Vader, like everyone's coming to get us, the boogeyman, everything's going to kill us. Yes, there's toxins, there's poisons, there's EMFs, there's negativity, there's fear, there's stress, there's evil, there's Satanism. Yes. And there's also, just like we said earlier, if there's I can't, I won't, I shouldn't, I couldn't, I didn't, there is also what? I can, I know, I will, and let it be done.
Mm-hmm.
There are also
the light side, the shadow side.
There are also the light side, the Jedis, the people that have great power and great responsibility. Whether you're at a community level like we are, helping people at this level, or you're at a level that Trump is at with the military in places that you and I would never have access to. Because we live in a world, whether it's Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, 99.9% of people on this planet will never meet them.
No.
They'll never meet them.
Mm-mm.
So until you can grasp the fact that they are simply characters in a movie that you're watching, when you can grasp that fact, you can take a lot of stress off your nervous system, because those names, those people, those words, regardless of what they've done, good and bad, literally influence people where it literally stops them in their ability to function in life. And that's the power we've unconsciously given away. So for where we're headed, from everything, I can name every sector that we just named, from banking to religion to school to pharmaceutical to medicine to community to spirituality, to politics, to oil to energy to technology, industry, manufacturing, global supply chain, you name it. All of those right now are collapsing in real time. And like you said the other week on your reel, it's like this. I give the analogy of this whole COVID thing. The pandemic got us on that roller coaster up, and there were great times like, oh, look, evil's this, Bitcoin, that, this, but now we're peaked. And now we're like on the other side of the roller coaster. You know, before you go on a drop on a roller coaster, you start going, holy shit, how deep is this drop? How fast are we going?
Oh, I think we're dropping.
Is this tunnel going to cut my head off? And we're dropping.
I think the peak was a few months ago.
Literally, the peak was, yeah, exactly. And we're dropping, and we still have a drop to hit. So
for sure,
there's amazing stuff ahead. And just like anything, we're going to crash and burn before we come out better. We can't just, jump a rainbow to another prettier rainbow. We can't just have our comfort level go to the next comfort, where we'll go back to where we were. We'll literally go back to where we started, which is how evil distorted it. So if we can make the jump it with your language, with your habits, with your actions, with your lifestyle, with your choices, with your energy, with the people you surround yourself with your research, with your rest, with your discernment, with your cognition, with your brain health, with your ability to communicate, be disciplined, all the things we just talked about. If you can control that and have faith and trust that there's a bigger power working behind the scenes, just know that the best is truly yet to come. And you've heard people say it, whether it's Trump say it or people in the Q movement say it or conspiracy theorists say it. I am always going to say it, because we're living in amazing times. We're living in biblical times. We're heading towards a complete reset, which will scare people. That word scares people. No, it's not going to be doom and gloom. There are I could be on here 5 more hours with Justin and tell you 1,000 reasons why we're not going that direction. And I use not to really solidify that we are not. We are heading into an amazing future. Whether people are going to join with many of us or not, when I say many, millions and billions who have awoken already, we forget how many people are awake. They just don't talk about it. Remember that there's 3 types of people right now: ones that are completely awake, sharing, doing the thing, doing the work, all that stuff. 2, someone on the fence, right? Who's not sure if they should talk about it. They know something's off. They're afraid to speak out. They don't want to lose their comfort or the life they used to live or the thoughts they used to have. Or 3, completely ignorant, completely oblivious, have no clue what's happening, and will never question an external force, and will keep living until they literally walk right off a cliff or right into a lion's den in a way. And that's, you can only do so much for people. So starts with, it's follow the money, evil, fear, money, evil, all that stuff is one big cesspool, and it's literally leaked into the world. The world has become a swamp. That's why it's to drain the swamp. And to drain this swamp, you've got to meet evil at the highest form of good, which is God, which is love. And there's technology that is being used right now to flush this whole world, to flush out all the rats, all the snakes, all the swamp monsters, all the pedophiles, all the Satanism, all that stuff. And how do you flush them out? You simply bring them to the surface. You let the world see what is actually happening. And that's what we're seeing today, from domestic to international, to banking, to politics, to government, to pharmaceuticals, to education, to community, to development, homes, homelessness, mental health, all of these things. That's why everything's so crazy right now, because everything is brought to this front of the stage. Because you cannot tell the world, I cannot tell the world this. The world has to see it, and they see it and experience it and witness it before we can fully make that jump into a whole new timeline, which we are going to, which that they say it's called the event, grand solar flash, the rapture, the second coming of Christ, the whole reset, great awakening, all different labels for the event that is coming. And when it does happen, I'll say this: it will be an event. We'll go back, we'll look at this podcast months from now, maybe a year from now. It will be an event that will be predicated around sound.
Why sound?
because sound is the one thing that travels just as fast in water, which this planet is 75% water. Your body is 75% water. Molecular wise, we are 99% water. Sound travels the fastest in water. And when you have sound that can be emitted through this planet, whatever shape, size, realm, dimension you believe, that doesn't matter in the bigger picture. When sound can travel through this planet, and when it matches a certain point, and this is the workings of Nikola Tesla, when sound can travel, almost like a gong, you know what a gong, right? Like a gong. We got glimpses of this event in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And I can send you all the clippings. There were tests of this event, this rapture event that is going to happen through the power of sound, because sound, like a tuning fork, gives off what? What does sound give off?
Frequency.
What does a tuning fork give off? Frequency. What's another term for it?
Hertz.
Resonance.
Resonance.
Resonance. What's resonance? It's a ripple.
Mm-hmm.
It's watch the water. A resonance is when you are able to hit something and it can fractal out, scalar energy, right? And it can fractal out and it can cover vast amount, like the whole galaxy, the whole universe. Tesla knew this. So I'll wrap this up because I would love to talk about it if we have time, but the story of Noah, remember the story of Noah? God gave him the instructions to build what?
That's like the most resonant story in my life that I always talk about.
You use the word again, resonant.
Yes.
Resonance is something we're all connected to at the quantum level. So the story of Noah, God told him to build what?
The ark.
How do you spell that?
ARC.
ARK?
Isn't it ARC?
I'll let you check that. Maybe
Okay.
ARK. ARK is the boat.
You would know better than me.
ARK,
if you're referencing it.
ARK is the boat. Noah's Ark.
Okay.
And he saved humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward. What if I were to tell you, for those listening, it's okay if you think I'm crazy. It's all good. Crazy cop. God spoke to Nikola Tesla and he told him to build an ark. Instead of ARK, it's an ARC.
Oh shit. He must have spoke to me too.
when you study Nikola Tesla's work in depth, there's so much he did. Everything from Wi-Fi, telephones, radio that we have was from him, guys. It's not Edison. Edison was evil.
Yeah, he stole
Morgan,
shit. Yeah.
All those people. They take what is God-given and they manipulate to make it man-made.
Yeah.
That's how they control the world. Take what's God-given and make it man-made. Because when you make it man-made, you can put a what on it? Price tag. Okay, you can't put a price tag on Mother Earth by standing on her and giving you free energy. You can't charge people that. They do though, right? They do. So God spoke to Tesla, gave him the blueprints for a magnifying transmitter. What the hell's that? It's being able to take a certain resonance, a certain frequency, and place it in a way that you can actually magnify it on a grand scale that would reach the whole world. It's a sound event. So I don't know, Justin, do you ever remember during COVID or pandemic or anything where there was news reports of like a loud trumpet or a horn going off around the world?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay. Do you remember in New York, there was like a storm that happened and the whole sky turned blue and people thought it was Palladians or Project Bluebeam? Do you remember that happening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember when the Schumann resonance would blast for like 2 days straight off the chart Richter scale? Everyone thought the Schumann resonance broke. Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, that happened. No, Earth does not do that. That's technology.
Mm-hmm.
What the Jedis, good people, have in high places that me and you will never have access to is technology that actually takes, you remember CERN? You ever heard of CERN? What did they do?
CERN.
What did they do July 5th?
The Hadron Collider or whatever.
Yeah. What did they do July 5th? They did what?
They tried to split an atom or merge two atoms.
They tested it. But in reality, it wasn't CERN. Why doesn't CERN work? Never did. CERN was originally used to open black holes to bring in massive entities here to kill everybody. And that sounds crazy. Go watch Avengers. That's It's all future program. Avengers is a great movie to show you what's really happening. We're the Avengers, like us. We are all the Avengers. And Thanos is the elites. And the word Thanos also is relevant to Theos. And the word Theos is actually the root word of God. I don't know if you knew that. God
I
itself,
didn't.
the word God, etymology-wise, Greek and Latin goes to Theos. And then they create a supervillain of the or the Marvel universe called Thanos. It's all right there if you pay attention to the words. So CERN is actually being under control of good people. You call them white hats. You call them the good guys. They actually took control of that over back in 2018, 2017. They've been in control. Why? Because they're accessing technology called Alice. Some people think Project Looking Glass, which is like a time travel thing. Project Looking Glass is a part of it. It's just irrelevant because it only allows you to see multiple timelines instead of traveling into a timeline itself. So, the little history lesson for people, because this was never told in Rockefeller education. There's a man named John Trump. Sound familiar? It's Donald Trump's uncle. So he actually studied quantum physics. There was one thing he was fascinated with, and that's something called particle acceleration. For many people, don't even know what the hell that means. A plus squared, like we only know Pythagorean theorem. We're not going to be taught this stuff. So he actually would study at MIT. He actually lived right next to Nikola Tesla, where he lived, and they actually were close. And Nikola Tesla could not trust anyone on this planet with his inventions of the magnifying transmitter, which actually created a resonance that could turn humans, all of us. This is the event. Believe what you want. The event is a global phenomena after a crash of the whole global system that triggers a response in a technology that's already been put in place, set up in the CERN laboratory, set up in New York, set up in the southeast of Africa near Madagascar, which growing up, I was fascinated with Madagascar. I kid you not. I had a fascination with Madagascar. I have no clue why. It was my password for everything I had login wise growing up. And I learned that is an island chain down there that actually has this resonance technology. So John Trump got this information from Nikola Tesla, got it into good hands, and then they started building it behind the scenes while this whole world got taken advantage of. So the resonance, put it all together, you have this resonance like a giant bell. It's going to be a sound event. When that bell gets struck, there's going to be a resonance that ripples out. Literally, it goes around the whole world. And you will hear this and you will feel this. And our bodies, our human avatars, have been dampened down with EMF, toxins, pollutants, all this crap, literally, to keep us from tapping into who we truly are, which are multidimensional, energetic, quantum supercomputer beings. Like we're not like a meat suit. Like that just allows us to live in this low oxygen environment because oxygen has changed here. We literally turn into semiconductors. And if you study Nikola Tesla's work on semiconductivity, you have this ability to levitate. You actually have an ability to teleport. You have an ability to actually turn into a body that acts as a semiconductor. So if your body now becomes a semiconductor, as if you're in the no mind state in a deep meditation, whatever you want to call it, plus you have a resonance of a bell that's happening globally, when that resonance hits at a certain vibrate or a certain frequency at a certain point, it actually hits a right angle, goes up, and it goes to the ionosphere. When it hits the ionosphere, you have what's called God's ionizer. And that's why I'm so fascinated with Kangen water. I'm so fascinated with ionization, electrons, protons, because when you have that ionization happen in the ionosphere, you actually have an event where it looks like the return of Christ, like a sky event, like look to the sky, like Christ is returning. And in that event will be an avalanche of ions. It'll be an ion avalanche of electrons that are going to flood humanity, bring all the dark to light, and will initiate the start of the whole Great Awakening, whereas the new timeline, the new now Earth, the new conscious reality. And we're actually going to change timelines. We're going to leave this timeline, all God's women and children, animals, plants, through an arc, right? ARC that Tesla knew how to make, because he'd always say, what? The secrets of the universe, 369. So the 369 premise is you have a 3, you have a 6. The 3 and the 6 create the dipole, the positive and negative, and the 9, that's why they attacked World Trade Center on 9/11. 9 is God. like the 9 is God, and then you have 11 is the 10 twin towers, the temples. They killed God in people. So you have the 3 and the 6, and then the 9 flows through. That 9 is where we're all going together, and that's where the saying "where we go one, we go all" comes from, and that's going to be the event. And it's a lot to comprehend. It's a lot to grasp. It really comes down of your awareness with resonance, the Schumann resonance, ionization, particle acceleration, quantum physics, Nikola Tesla, the Q team, the ionosphere, and then all of this has actually happened in the last 3 years because they've been testing it for the event to happen. And that'll follow from the stock market crash, the collapse of big pharma, the collapse of the education system, the collapse of DC. I've had my own visions that there's going to be an event in DC. When that'll happen, I don't know, but it's going to have to do with water, because if you look up Washington DC right now, it's literally getting prepared for a flood.
Yeah.
How biblical is that? Where God brought the flood. And the Potomac River is the closest thing. So that could be something that completely washes away DC.
I'm glad that you're down to openly share that, and I encourage our audience to if any of this resonates, back to that word, research it for yourself before you write Chris off as insane. Look into it yourself.
The crazy Jesus, everyone thought Jesus was insane too.
Yeah.
Everyone thought Tesla was insane. The more insane, crazy you sound in a crazy world, the more normal it becomes.
Yeah.
So, but the last thing I will say is the reason why I have confidence in the best is yet to come and all these things, if you really pay attention here, is because in the past, it already happened. Okay. In the past, it already happened. It's happened many times. It just hasn't been the whole buffet. It's been a piece of the buffet. So if you go back and look at clippings of the Schumann resonance, the bell around the world, the people that hear the trumpets, it'll be a sound event. The last trumpet will reign and Christ will return. This is all prophesied. It's all biblical. And instead of a boat, we're using an ark, which is a time traveler, which is Tesla technology that is proven, patented. You can look it up in government records. And all of these now are in the hands of good people that are doing God's work, that expect nothing and do not want to be shown behind the scenes, because they don't care who gets the credit. They just know where we go on, we go all. And that's what we're heading to. And it's the greatest. That's why the best is yet to come. And Trump addresses this so much in his speeches. If you broke all of his speeches down, he gives you a glimpse of where we're going through time, space, like Space Force. It's not for outer space. Space Force isn't outer space. It's the space around me and you, in our house, in our car. It's
quantum space.
It's quantum space, not out there. And it's out there too.
Yeah.
Space Force is literally who controls the God particle, like the electron, the ion, all things. What is the negative charge? You know what's going to happen in the future. It's future proves past, and we're going back to the future, but we're making advancements. So really cool stuff, man. Great time.
Hell of a breakdown, man. Out of all the questions I asked, you went in on that one. I knew, my students, they troll me in the Level Up Collective because I always say zoom the fuck out. So like it's become a thing. They've made like memes of me and shit. And you're all about zooming out as well. So I was like cracking up when you were like, all right, we need to zoom out here and look at this. Yeah. But I knew you would enjoy that question. And so, me and Chris have, slightly different views of the world, but the beautiful thing about emotional maturity is we can hold different beliefs or similarly but unique beliefs, and that's not an issue, Mm-hmm. So it's I'm all about, number one, free speech, and number two, people doing their own research, so yes. Just want to clarify that, like, before you write off anything he said, look into it. Yeah. As I have. And so I'm not going to speak on my beliefs here, but I think everyone needs to do that for themselves. And that's how you arrive at your own conclusions rather than being spoon-fed things, AKA programming. Exactly. So now we're going to pivot, and then we're heading into the wrap up, but we do have a few more questions. I want to address the recession. Before we get there, let's just talk a little bit about the basics of consumer and producer. There's this notion that's been in my head for the last few weeks, and I really want to. I'm going to start creating some content around it because it's just I'm seeing it over and over and over. I'm seeing it in my community. I'm sure you experience as well. Like when you run a community at scale, like you start to see recurring patterns, and then you'll look on social and you'll see it more, and so you kind of recognize when
Yeah.
like something is relevant.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this as being relevant, and what I'm referencing is I want to know your take on people trying to obtain wealth or get rich, however they want to say it,
Mm-hmm.
solely by investing in publicly traded assets,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's buying stock, whether that's options, whether that's metals, whether that's crypto,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Trying to do that and thinking that that's their how they're going to become wealthy
Yeah.
while remaining a consumer mindset wise and actions wise, and never making the shift from consumer to producer. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious of your stance on how you see the whole consumer producer thing and what you would tell someone in your own community
Sure.
who you saw skipping steps, if you get what I mean. And just like, I have a good paying job. It's safe. That's my favorite one. It's secure. That's my second favorite one. And, I'm just going to dollar cost average and eventually I'll get there. I'm curious of your opinion on that.
Like we mentioned previous on this podcast here, there are great opportunities for so many people. I mean, there was the whole Bitcoin thing that happened. There was there's a lot of great opportunities that got a lot of people wealthy just in the last couple of years.
For sure.
That also ties along the lines of, is it sustainable? Is it something that's going to change your mindset? Is it going to change the way you process information, look at life? Because more times than not, external situations and circumstances dictate how we think internally when we should be flipping it. We were talking even about this before the podcast of just how many stories you hear of people winning the lottery, making a lot of money, doing these amazing deals without the financial literacy, the knowledge, the emotional, like Justin said, the emotional stability, the nervous system regulation, the being able to allocate and breathe and know what your money's doing across the board. Without those things that you don't get paid for, without those things that you don't necessarily get all the glitz and glam, and your friends look at you different because you know all this. Those are the things that people will skip. And when that time comes, when your crypto moons or your stock goes crazy or a new thing happens or you get this new deal, it'll go out maybe just as fast as it came in. It may go down as fast as it went up. So when it comes to knowing where you're headed, without the knowledge and emotional backing behind the money you make, behind the investments you have, behind the assets that you're building, whether it's small or large, whether it's a ounce of silver or 1 million XRP crypto, if you do not have that emotional backing behind it, it's going to be very hard to navigate that, because your world will change. And whether it's your car's going to change, whether it's your life's going to change, your family's going to change, there's going to be change that happens. And what happens is we become reactive to change instead of proactive. And we wait for the thing to hit XYZ dollar point, and then we'll become a better person. We wait for our stock to hit this amount. Then I'll start going to the gym so I can get my mind right. I'll make sure I do that after. We are going to wait for Bitcoin to go to this, and then I'm going to go read a Robert Kiyosaki book. Because in the meantime, dude, I'm good. I'm just chilling. I'm comfortable. I'm chilling. Yes, you can do that. Yes, you can chill and kick back and then dollar cost average and work a job and get paid a salary and have your benefits. When you zoom out though, and you realize that those variables in that mindset is actually collapsing in real time in this now moment, without us even have to touch on it on this podcast. If you just paid attention, if you looked outside, if you did a little research, you read some information, you sat with it, you really realize where the world is headed. When you're able to do this, you're able to really get your power back in a way that you never knew you had before. Because when you have that power before these monumental things happen with the monetary system, before your assets triple or quadruple, if you can do that busy, hard work that no one wants to do before, you'll know exactly what to do with the money you make. My question that I ask Justin, most people, I'll say, hey, I'm about to send you $10,000 right now. What are you doing with it today? The amount of time it takes for them to answer that is very eye-opening. And they're the same people that will tell me, I can't wait for XRP to hit 1,000 a coin. And I ask them, well, what are you going to do with 10,000? And people have no clue. Some people don't even know what to do with $100. And yet they are hoping and praying for this $1 million net worth, this $10 million profile, this $50 million asset portfolio. And when you ask them, hey, if I give you $1,000, where would that go? They're all going to say their savings account, or I'm going to go pay rent, or I'm going to go on a vacation. And that right there tells me where they are at financially, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. So when it comes down to an opportunity like we've been talking about amongst the recession, amongst a time where things feel shaky or prices are going up, demand is changing, supply is changing, the dollar is losing its value. If you guys did not know, Russia doesn't use the dollar anymore. India's not going to use the dollar anymore. China's not using. There's a whole alliance of the biggest economies in the world that are saying goodbye to this. So when you look at stocks, when you look at bonds in the markets, all of that is held up by this. Yes, this holds up all of that, but what holds up that? You realize that there is going to be a complete new shift, a complete new paradigm. And even those that are sitting back and just waiting for something to happen, feeling that they're safe and protected, that's going to be an awakening in some way, shape, or form. So what you can do now is literally take action, whether that's increasing your cash flow, creating another stream of income, investing into yourself that builds your financial literacy, that doesn't just build your savings or checkings account. For many people, they think I only have $5,000. That's more than most people on this planet. Like, you are wealthy, like, regardless. It's probably your lifestyle and your spending habits that make you feel poor. Right. So I always say live frugal and think rich. Like, live poor, like go get deals, like go negotiate. Like, if you don't need to upgrade, don't upgrade. Like, you could say no, like instead of a 2-hour retreat, do a 1 hour to save some money, and then get in the habit of putting that money in a place that will grow over time. That's another way you can dollar cost average without doing it per day, so to speak. So if you can take these steps, if you can actually sit your butt down, and if you can actually do things and take advantage, because it's very easy to sit back and get cozy and wait for everything to implode because your bags are packed. I've heard that more times than enough. My bags are packed, I'm just waiting. I even have these thoughts at times. We're human. It's normal. We'd all love to not do anything and just wake up and have $10 million in our portfolio. Will that happen? Absolutely, it can. Will it happen to everyone? Probably not. Can it happen to anyone? Yes. And that's the beauty of what opportunity we are presented. So with all that said, take action. And when I mean take action, that means learn, get educated. If you're setting up trusts, if you're working on discharging your debt, if you're working on becoming sovereign, if you're changing your birth certificate, if you're looking to get multiple streams of income, if you're looking to start a community, if you're looking to grow your leadership, if you're looking to improve your language, if you want to get healthier, now is the time, instead of waiting for XYZ to happen, to try to do it later. Because you're going to be back on the treadmill. And as fast as you run on a treadmill, both you and I know, and everyone listening, you're actually not going anywhere. You're literally not going anywhere. You're just running as fast as you can.
Hamster wheel.
Your heart rate is through the roof and you're dripping sweat, and you literally covered no miles because the treadmill moves for you. You just move your feet, and does not mean you go somewhere. When you get off the treadmill and get on a trail, go onto the hike in the mountains where you don't know what's around the corner, and it's rainy or hot or foggy or whatever it is. Now you're getting somewhere. Now you're making action. So when does shit hit the fan, and when things do rebalance out and reset to a level playing field, you're hitting the ground running instead of getting off a treadmill and start running. Because go try it. Get off a treadmill after running 10 miles an hour. Go try running right after it. You'll trip and fall. And we want to keep you standing upright because we need you. We need you. We're calling for you. We need more people that are sharing the good word and giving good people more value. And that does not come as a byproduct of what's in your banking, checking, savings, crypto, stock, mortgage, asset portfolio. That is you. And that's how God works. And everything else is the illusion, is the fabrication. Yes and no, both sides of the coin. And at the end of the day, you get to choose instead of relying on a heads or tails guess and check every single day, which is what we're waking you up to. So that's to be my lens on that. Now is the time. There is no later. Be as consistent as the sun. It rises every day. It goes down every day. Welcome it. Take your advantage now, because we'll look back years from now, 5-10 years from now, and there's going to be I wish I would have, I should have, dang it, I missed it, ugh, resent, regret, depression. That's what happens. And there's also going to be a bunch of people, millions of people that go, I'm so glad I did. I'm happy I did. I know it was worth it. That's the past reflection you want to look to have. So be the producer and a consumer. Consume great info, learn from these podcasts, learn from the books. There's a balance. Okay, it's hard to work out in the gym and not eat food. You gotta produce some energy, you gotta make some movement, and you gotta consume some fuel. And that's the same thing. But if you stop moving, you stop running, you stop lifting, speaking, acting, reaching, talking, and you just eat, good or bad, you're gonna get really heavy. You're gonna feel very heavy. When shit does hit the fan, it's a lot harder to run with a heavy body wearing a weight vest. So take that weight vest off. Your future self will thank you for it. And I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful, brother. I think that's a perfect place to end off. I want to ask you if there's anything else that you want to share with us that's on the top of your mind, and or anything you want to ask me before we wrap up.
I want to ask you, when can we do another one? Because these are so fun. So we're gonna do another one. I pray. I know we will.
Yeah, we can do a round two.
We'll do a run. We'll run them back. Maybe we'll get some topics from the community that they want some things covered on. We can touch.
That'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Get some feedback from all y'all listening. Even though there's two of us on here, we know a lot of people are listening. So we appreciate you guys' energy and taking all this and using discernment. And that's really the message. It's as crazy as the world's going to get. You welcome this part of you. You welcome this part of you that you've been running from, whether it's saying I can, I will, instead of I can't and I won't. Go welcome that part. Whether it's getting triggered by someone who's sharing something you don't know and it pokes you in a place where you don't have awareness of, welcome that part. The sooner you can welcome the adversity, the sooner you can welcome the discomfort, the sooner you can accept and appreciate and love the failures and feedbacks in your life, the mistakes that turn into messages, the triggers that become trampolines. The moment you make the moment you make that choice, is when your life will completely change, and you will time travel. You will look at your past and have to sit with it. Welcome that. Sit with yourself, cry it out, purge it out, whatever you got to do. Find a safe space with a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a community, even whatever that might be, whoever that is for you in your life. Purge all that stuff out and give it a smile and wave and say, thank you for helping me be who I am. Be present now and do all things you can control, like we just talked about. Produce, create, build, manifest. You have this gift in your voice, strongest muscle. You have the larynx and the tongue. These are muscles that we do not use enough. We use our brain way too much to overthink and overanalyze. If you can trust there's a higher power that literally beats your heart when you're sleeping, that digests your food when you're reading, that pumps your blood when you're working out, you don't control it. I don't control it. There's no way we can control all those aspects. If you believe that there's a greater power that has your back, you're on the right track. And then as far as where we're going, the things that come in, the information, the half-truths, the media, the conspiracies, the data, the lenses, the stories, the assumptions, projections, you got to put your armor of God on and know that discernment is a gift that you can all unlock. And you got to feel it within your body. Ask yourself these questions to get clarity. When in doubt, zoom out. And then when you zoom back in, simply ask your heart what it is that you're here to do next and follow that. And you will always be led to the right place, because everything outside of us right now in this podcast and this flow is really designed to make sure you do not become aware of what I just said.
Where can people find you? And is there anything you would like to promote or bring attention to?
Yeah, I mean, you should connect with me at Come Out Better. You can't tag me. Probably can guess why. At Come Out Better. So you can follow
the Rothschilds won't let you get tagged.
They don't like they don't like the what is, guys. They just don't like the I can and I cans. They don't like those. So you could find me there. I have close to 1,000 highlights on my story or my page. So if you go to my highlights section, there's 92 highlights, and each one has about 100 slides in them. So there's about 10,000 slides of content. And it's all capsulated, because I knew this time would come where we're heading towards the event, that we're going to look back in the last 4 years and what happened. That's why I wanted to start the highlight content, is for the time capsule. So you can actually go back to my farthest highlight and see what I was sharing 3-4 years ago and you can actually watch every highlight and match it with what has happened and what is happening. And it's pretty much 98% all on the money of what has occurred. So to give you a whole timeline, check out the highlights. I'm on Telegram as well. Come Out Better, and the O in out is a Q. So come QUT better. So come out better, but the O is a Q. I'm on Twitter as well. Not as active. I'm active there. Come Out Better as well. And then I have my website, which I'm close to launching. It's been one of those things, like I'm sure Jess can attest. There's just a couple changes, a couple tweaks, a little perfection coming out of me. I ain't perfect either. I'm perfectly imperfect. Comeoutbetter.com. Comeoutbetter.com. I actually have my library opened up. So if you want to dive into some of those resources on Tesla, the brain, Great Awakening, health-wise, you can find it on comeoutbetter.com. And I have the library section open because there's about 20 other tabs that I'm going to have created for you guys. Cool. Like a quantum website, comeoutbetter.com. And the last thing I'll say, water plays such a role in our financial system, income streams, but also your health. So if you're ever curious on upgrading your water, hit me up if you want to learn more. But that's my biggest offering is Kangen water and CBD. If you're into CBD, I got a company called Goldvana that does nano water soluble CBD. But really my purpose is to just help more people wake up, come out better, become financially literate. We need more people that have this literacy, this emotional grounding, mental stability, physical wellness, and spiritual connection, plus millions or billions of dollars to do something with. We've got a lot of work to do. We got a lot. 100%. We got a lot of things to build. This is not 100%. The end. This is not the end of the marathon, guys. We're walking up to the starting line. It's the end of the old world. It's the end of the apocalypse. It's the biblical end of times, because that marathon that we've been running, that shit has been rigged. You could run 50 miles and still think you're on mile 1 and wonder why you are not getting anywhere. We're so behind. So we're coming up to the starting line. We just want to make sure you're right next to us, not above or below us, because we're all in this together. So I'll leave it at that. So hit me up, Come Out Better. Across the board, you'll find me. Twitter, Telegram, Instagram, even Facebook, Chris O'Brien, and then comeoutbetter.com is where you're going to get the nuggets, which I'm going to put this podcast on there as well, along with about 12, 15 other podcasts I've done over the years. You guys will have access to all those. So that's where you can find me. There we go.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for sharing the space with me and coming on to the show. I hope my audience dives into your stuff. Definitely give Chris a follow. It's a good friend, and he'll happily connect with you guys. So any questions, just reach out to him anytime. Chris, love everything that you're doing. Thanks for coming on here. Can't wait to do round 2.
Let's do it. Thanks, brother. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Peace and love, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode.